Hey, good morning, FCF. We're going to move ahead from last week. We were in the book of Judges to the book of 1 Samuel, and it's really only about 47 years. We're jumping ahead in time. It's about 1029 BC. And we're going to look at an episode in the life of David. David was the second king of Israel. Saul was the first king, and we're going to see both of these individuals. Now Saul is the one that we're going to see that's scheming and creating the terrible set of circumstances for David. But he's scheming because he's neurotically fearful that he's going to lose the power that God had given him. Now, he should have been going to God about it, but instead he was fighting for it with his own ideas and so forth. But there are people that will scheme against other people just because that person makes them feel threatened, makes them feel uncomfortable. They fear that person's going to take something that they have, and so they will scheme, and they will do terrible things sometimes to keep the position, the power, the prestige, whatever it is that they think this other person threatens them. We're going to see that with David and Saul. So I'll start reading in 1 Samuel 18. And to give you a little background, David has killed Goliath. He's a great hero in Israel. The people are cheering him as a great warrior. And Saul becomes insecure and jealous. And I'll start in verse 20 and 21. So Saul now wants to eliminate David because David is a threat to him. And he feels like Saul's already been told by God that his rule is going to be broken and that God has chosen another king because of Saul's disobedience. So this is all in the back of his mind too. Verse 20 says, Now Saul's daughter, Michal, was in love with David. And when they told Saul about it, he was pleased. He says, I will give her to him, he thought, so that she may be a snare to him, and so that the hand of the Philistines may be against him. So Saul said to David, Now you have a second opportunity to become my son-in-law. Let's jump forward to verse 25. Saul replied, Say to David, the king wants no other price for the bride than 100 Philistine foreskins, meaning that he wanted David to kill 100 Philistines before he could marry his daughter, to take revenge on his enemies. Saul's plan was to have David fall by the hands of the Philistines. So this is a scheme. He just wants to eliminate David. Now, of course, it doesn't work out the way he had hoped. I'll drop down to verse 28 and 29. When Saul realized that the Lord was with David, and that his daughter Michal loved David, Saul became still more afraid of him, and he remained his enemy the rest of his days. So here we see the scheme comes out of Saul's insecurity, but his insecurity came out of the fact that he had broken trust with God. He was not doing the things that God told him to do as the king of Israel. The Lord took his rule away from him and gave it to David. But at this point, he didn't know that it had been given to David, but he was afraid enough, so he seeks to destroy him. There are times when people feel threatened, maybe by us, or feel threatened by somebody, and we can start scheming, or somebody else may start scheming against us because we create a threat to them. We may not even be aware of it. We may not know anything about it. We may be just going about our business, doing our thing, but they feel that something they have, it might be the attention of someone, it might be some position, it might be some power, it might be some influence, whatever it might be, they feel that that's going to be threatened perhaps by our presence, and so we become their enemy, though that's not our intention at all. This is the terrible world that sin has created for us, but we need to know we do live in a world where people are schemers and they scheme, and the sadder truth is that sometimes you and I scheme as well, and we need to open our hearts to the Lord to show us any pocket of poison that might be in us that would allow us to become schemers like that.